Hi, I'm Selena for Who is Jesus Today? Who is Jesus today in your life and mine? Who is Jesus in the lives of those who claim to know Jesus? Who is Jesus in the lives of those who actually do? And I can say today, if you have no interest, and if you are still on the other side where you say, I do not believe in Jesus the way you are talking about, or I'm just not convinced in what you are even sharing about Jesus from the Bible. You know what? You're in a place where I have been myself. And if anyone has truly had a conversion, as the Apostle Paul did on the road to Damascus, on his way to that ancient country, Syria, right? Then he could tell you, like me and so many millions, that we also had in our own way a road to Damascus experience, where we also did not believe, had no interest. I'm glad that I did not really begin falling in love with church for the sake of falling in love with church or religion, but I just had an encounter as not like the road to Damascus experience of the Apostle Paul, but I did have an encounter, and I will share that later, how I did. I didn't know anything about the Bible. There was no preacher, not in front of me, but there was the Lord Jesus calling me. Yeah, I'm thankful for a loving, praying mom. I remember I saw my mom praying for me one day. I was coming from school. I was up in high school then. And she was on her knees and she was praying, Lord, save my daughter. And I was angered by that. I looked at her. I didn't tell her, because I would not want to be that disrespectful to my mother. A good woman, a loving and easygoing woman. And she's had her struggles in life, and she did not want her daughter to have those experiences. But she was open to Jesus since I was old enough to know that someone could be open to Jesus. And she says, Lord, save my daughter. Don't let her go through the things I've gone through. And I was saying in my heart, you can pray all you want. I will never be a Christian. Well, it's called conversion. When you convert, you go from one thing to the other, right? Remember those cars? People have those cars. With the convertible cars, it's probably not really a good example, but this is all I could think of. You push it back, and now your car is open. Now, really, no, I never liked those cars because I felt like something can land on my head from anywhere, and then you just close it, and it goes back to having over a hood. Well, I'm glad that the true conversion in Jesus, you don't have to be like going back and forth where, hey, I'm converted today, I'm not converted tomorrow, I'm converted for 2 hours, I'm unconverted, for 22 hours. And if there are some of those that think that they can live back and forth with their conversion, then no, I have to question if you ever really been converted. Because unlike the convertible automobile, Our conversion in the Lord, it doesn't have to go back and forth. You either are converted or you're not. Now, there are mistakes, trips, and stumbling along the pathway, of course. But you're not happy in error once you've come to know the truth of who Jesus is. You're just not. You're just not. I'm saying from experience, you're not. And I know so many others can testify. So I remember in my heart saying, almost with mockery, you can pray all you want. It's like, I'm like, these prayers aren't going to work. Because, I'm saying, this depends on like what I want, who I want to be, what I want to be, right? So I thank the Lord for a mother's prayers. And my prayers has blessed my child as well. Yes. So I want to read this verse, Proverbs 3, chapter 3, verse 5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. And in all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. So true. For some of us, that's easier than others. Like, maybe we're not so, our personalities may not be so much like we like to kind of question things and don't take things too much at face value. For some of us, unbelief comes easy. Okay? And I know I like to think and process things a lot in my mind. So for me, a battleground has been to trust in the Lord with all my heart and lean not on my own understanding. And I find that's where I can go back and forth. I'm trusting the Lord, but then let me try and figure out the steps in the process. But no, trust in the Lord and acknowledge him. And then he will direct your paths. And he will make straight paths where the paths are crooked. And he makes straight paths for us in the desert. If your path in your life today is crooked, you can trust the Lord to make that path straight. But I'm going to say this, if we're going to make our own paths and expect for God to make them straight and to endorse it when he says, no, that's not my will, then forget about it. Okay? Because you see, no matter how smart we think we are or strategic our plans are, because man or a woman or a child makes many plans on our own, but it's the plan of the Lord that will succeed. And so you see, we have to trust in the Lord. And as we do put our trust and we acknowledge him as sovereign, the sovereign God, we can lean on him to guide us and to direct us. And sometimes the direction that we are going can seem like it's not going to turn out well. And it may appear to be like a crooked path. But no, if it's God, even if your plans don't seem so great, your path will come out straight. But if it's not God, no matter how strategic you are in your planning, your path will not be straight. And if you don't have a straight path, then you cannot execute a plan well. This is so important for us to keep in mind. In closing, remembering the calamity from this earthquake in Turkey and Syria, the Apostle Paul did a lot of his ministry in Turkey. Yes. And was of that region. So I want to say too that, we're going to find out as time progresses of the loss of life. There are people there, and we are we should be praying and sharing in that grief. To pray is nothing that we can do of ourselves, but we can acknowledge of the Lord in this. There are some that are called to go forward and help physically, and that is happening. Also, this is not just people, as you will know, from a Turkish descent. There was also, I believe, some athletes there. So I'm coming to find out there was a young man. I'm not clear now of the country in Africa, but he was in Turkey, and I was seeing how he's alive, but he was under the rubble. So I mean, there are people that are there. There are a group of youth, of school kids who have lost their lives that I'm hearing. And I also want to say that I have been one who has taught in another country, actually, too. And sometimes you think about, someone is like a language teacher, an English teacher. But when you are teaching abroad in any profession, it's, and I mean, for a lot of us, we are believers in Jesus, but a whole lot of people aren't. But it's like a mission ground, and it's a battleground, because when you are in that country, you have left behind family and friends, and anything can happen. Anything can happen. And that was always a concern of mine when I had lived abroad, was that God, I took this step. I'm here, but I says, God, I want to get back home to see my family, and I don't want anything to ever happen to me in another country. So it's really something when you are working abroad and you are there on a visit or any kind of trip, and then you also have to meet the calamity. So we will be hearing about more and more people of Turkish descent or not who have fallen on from the devastation of this earthquake. You may hear about that, of course, more in Turkey than Syria. But keeping in mind that the people of Syria do need help, and they need aid, and they need our prayers. And so I thank the Lord for a heart for the nations, feeling deeply the call to the nations. Not all of them, but a few of them. A few of them. So, with that being said, to everyone that is listening, I pray for your peace. I pray for breakthrough in your lives and healing. And that the love of Christ will fill your heart. And if for those of you who do follow Jesus, at times we still have places in us that need to be healed or fill void or a lack of peace. We don't have to. What we have to do is trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. And in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths. Until next time, Shalom.